the latest developments are, the research outputs feature has been released. This is the roadmap version, and by what we mean by roadmap version is the simplest version of it all, if you like. But we were aware that we have to do lots of improvements, and we've dedicated time on this meeting to discuss it. So we'll come back to it later. This year is being dominated by upgrades to our back-end infrastructure. And tomorrow, we are going to upgrade the operating system to the live server. The tool is going to be down. To be on the safe side, we're going to say for most of the day. We apologize for inconvenience. We have emailed you. I hope you are aware of this. And I hope that this will be one of our last upgrades this year that will cause major disruption to the service. We will continue to do upgrades, but they won't knock the service out for a whole day. After we do the upgrade to the live server operating system, I also hope to move on to move the service to what we call the Metro Stretch cluster. This is a cluster of servers where if one of them comes down, the other one can take the service over. You may remember that we discussed this. We had a period of disruption. I think it was around April, May. Please correct me if I'm wrong, everybody. And that's when we started discussing with our Unix team at the University of Edinburgh what we can do to prevent disruption to the services. This is one of the decisions we took to use a cluster of servers. At the moment, we don't think that's going to take long to develop. We need an automatic, a way of automatically restarting the service, and that is not a huge amount of development. It's a matter of, days rather than months of development. And it's, sorry, can I just check the chat? I presume you can hear me. All right, it's a link to living agenda. Okay. And we'll give you a timeline for that. We hope it's going to be August, September. Okay, the next major piece of development is going to be the deployment of roadmap version 4.1.0. This is, when I say major deployment, the code is there. We had some problems with the fact that it wasn't implementing our styling. We think we have a solution. And this particular version of roadmap has a lot of bug fixes and things for developers. It doesn't features for developers. It doesn't really impact the end user so much. The one thing that the end user will see is the ability to download phases of a plan rather than being forced to download the whole plan. We've been asked for this before, and I hope you will be pleased with this. It's really good to be able to not be forced to download the whole plan when you haven't actually completed a phase, because you're not in a position to complete it. And I think that's one good step. And we have, sorry, I said development of Bootstrap. I'll have to correct this. Is upgrade of Bootstrap is ongoing. That is going to be a matter of at least a couple of months. This is a major piece of infrastructure that deals with the way the website and the style sheets operate. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Glenys, have I said anything that is?
That's right, Diana. It's an upgrade.
Yeah, it's an upgrade. I just put there development. Okay. Okay, our last, we've emailed this to you before, the forthcoming user group meetings. Please add them to your calendars. They are listed on the agenda, on today's working agenda, which is, the link is included in the chat. And we've emailed them, tweeted them. They're also on the DCC website. we haven't decided topics for all of these. We have an idea what we want to do. So one of them was, I was hoping to make it a meeting with funders. I'm trying to pin down UKRI. Users in the UK will know why. And I don't think we'll make the 19th of September. And if we can't make September, we hope to make November. But it is imperative that they communicate their intentions to all universities in the UK. I'm not going to bore our international users with what is going on. It's funders in the UK application for grants in the UK are submitted via a new system, and there has been some misunderstanding about guidance on how the researchers can submit plans, and this is what we're trying to correct at the moment. I was hoping to get them to meet with you, or either not just UKRI, but as many funders I can get around the table. I think September is wishful thinking. I think it's most likely to be November. I was hoping to get clarification much sooner for all of you. So there's that. Another topic I had in mind was Christine Giacomo from Opidor. They are using the roadmap code. Essentially, their interface is DMPonline. But they are thinking of redeveloping the data structure to do new things with the tool. It's again the machine actionability, and I was hoping to get her to give you a demonstration of what they are doing. Otherwise, she has already said yes, but I'm trying to figure out who I can speak to first, UKRI or Christine. So that's what's going to happen in September, November. Otherwise, most meetings are going to focus on a topic from our development priorities. However, if you feel that you have that you want to discuss something in particular, please propose topic. Don't feel shy. Just send to us. I really want to discuss this. I really want to discuss that. I'm burning to hear more about this. Okay, so this is an interactive meeting, informal. Don't feel that you have to hold back from giving us input. Another thing I wanted to mention is DMPonline at the International Digital Curation Conference. This is the 18th edition, I think. I have put the link on the slide. I think, well, I'm almost certain that we're going to hold a workshop. And again, you feel free to propose topics for that workshop and how it could go. One of the topics I think is going to be integration with RSpace. They're really keen on demonstrating that at the workshop. RSpace is a repository, and it could be a model on how we integrate with other repositories as well. And anything else, please add it to the agenda. We're going to, you can add it to our working agenda, or you can email us on DMPonline@DCC. You can email me. I'll prefer the help desk so that other people can pick up on this. But whichever way you want, please come forward with ideas on how this workshop could work and what we could cover. And we also want it to be interactive, and I'm hoping that we can sit down and actually work on some of our features. If we have specifications for, we'll develop specifications for some of the features we'll be working on, and we can sit down and actually work on them together. Okay, so that's it as an introduction. And I'm going to move on to development priorities. Anybody has any questions so far? I can see something in the chat. Would it be possible to discuss funder templates and DMP template priority for universities have certified templates and how this can be better implemented in DMPonline? This is from Mark Bruinio. Yes. You mean at IDCC or at one of our user groups, so you don't care much?
It's more of an item maybe when you're discussing DMPonline with funders, how they view
so
this.
During that meeting. Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's more of a how would they view this, because I know how we view it as a university. Since we have a certified DMP template for a number of funders, we'd like our template to be the first to pop up if somebody selects that they're being funded by a specific funder and not the specific template from the funder itself, since that usually is not very detailed and causes a lot more problems, or at least more work for us if we need to review those.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, this is really useful input. That's precisely the kind of discussion we want to have. Okay, thank you. Sorry to bring the conversation back to funders, but issue of having DMP only on completed grant is a big change. This is a useful place for us to interact as a community. Yes, thanks, Nina. I just asked my colleagues to copy these comments and put them on our agenda so that we don't lose track of them. Thank you so much. Let's move on to our development priorities for this year. So overall, very quickly, could you elaborate? This is for Nina. Okay, I'll let you chat, and let's move on to the development priorities, because I'm running a little bit behind. Oh, guys, thanks very much for the comments. Okay, so the goals have remained the same: to increase machine actionability, and make more use of PIDs and DOIs. We're aware that that's primarily what you want. The new features we're going to work on are we're going to deploy integration with the Research Organization Registry. This is for the organization selection field. I'm going to show you a screenshot of that. I'm not going to do elaborate demonstrations of this because we don't have time today. The dynamic grant, deliver a dynamic grant ID field, a new plan creation wizard, and I've also mentioned the integration with RSpace, because we're keen on doing an integration with the repository and see how we can apply digital object identifiers to data that is, we're linking to data sets within a repository. And as I said, integration with RSpace could be a model on how we can do this for other repositories. Okay, so the machine actionable organization field, this shouldn't take long to do. I think we already have the code, but we propose some changes to it, which is why it's taking a little bit longer, because we also have to consult with our colleagues on roadmap to deliver these changes. So this is a simple thing that will have more of an impact on the end user. So you probably are aware that the current search field for organizations returns, if you start typing an organization, the autofill function works, but it returns a list of organizations that have a profile within DMPonline. What we plan to do is to link this field to the Research Organization Registry, and which will then return, this is a database of most research organizations in the world. And this will then return, if I start typing Edinburgh, this will then return most organizations that contain the word Edinburgh in them. I couldn't illustrate it in this screenshot, but there are 18. In this particular search, it has returned 18 organizations. The reason why we feel there is an urgency about doing this is because it has an impact on the end user. A lot of the time we get the inquiry, help, I can't create an account because my organization is not on the system, and we have to tell them to select other, and it just doesn't look good. Some users will probably still have to select other in the long run, but I think most users will find their organization there. So it's a simple thing, but we hope it will make a difference to the end user in terms of usability. If you have questions about this, or is the discussion going on? I think the discussion is going on about funders. I'll leave that for now. Okay. Okay, so dynamic grant ID field. Now this is going to, we hope to turn this into machine actionable field. We hope we will turn this into a machine actionable field. I'm always so hesitant. So you probably are aware that when you create a plan, there are two grant ID fields on the page. One is the ID, the automatic ID that DMPonline assigns to the field, to the plan. It also appears in the URL. It's the ID that the database gives to the plan. And then there is also a grant number URL field. Again, we are right now typing the feature specification for this, but this one should not be editable. It is currently editable and it shouldn't be, because if you have a problem with your plan, if you can't locate your plan, the identity allocated by DMPonline shouldn't be editable at all. And we think this one will become the grant number ID that is retrieved from a database. DMP-Toolie have their National Funding Council. There will be a number of fields, sources we can retrieve a grant ID from. And this is the one that will become the machine actionable field. I don't know whether there is a need for the URL. I think a grant ID is more important, because it can retrieve additional information, including project title. The URL, I'm not convinced is that important, or we may have to separate the field. But it is the grant number that will become the machine actionable field. Again, just like we did for research outputs feature, if any of you have strong views about how this should operate, please approach us, say, I want to be on this mini working group that wants to develop this feature. Of course, we will circulate the specification to all of you. You will be invited at various stages to comment. You will see demos. And you will have a chance to give us input about how you think this should operate. Okay, so yes, I'm going to minimize this a bit. Okay. The next, sorry, it's being a bit slow. Okay, the next development priority is the plan creation wizard. We've been working on this for a while, but because we've been so overloaded with backend updates, we just haven't had the chance to really add the finishing touches and deploy it. And I also think that before we can deploy it, we need to make sure that you're happy with this. We've demonstrated it on a couple of occasions, but we just haven't had a chance to move forward with it. So the current plan creation wizard automatically selects a template for the user based on a combination of organization and funder. So it uses this as filter, and it offers the user the template. This is your template. What we plan to do is offer a menu of appropriate templates to the user. We can also do something like, based on your filters, the most appropriate template is this, but you also have this, this, and this. Again, I'm sure you'll have very strong views about this, but we have to offer users the option to select their appropriate template. Some users, for example, have said, well, I work for 2 institutions. I have to sometimes change the institution in my profile to be able to select to be offered the appropriate template, and users shouldn't have to do these kinds of gymnastics to get the appropriate template. The image on the right illustrates the scenario for University of Edinburgh users selecting a AHRC as a funder. Sorry, I chose yet again a UK funder, but we can, you know, we can illustrate other funders as well. And again, I will, if you have really strong views about this, I will really love to hear from you and create another mini working group of people who, you know, want to take active part in both drafting the shaping the development of the feature, drafting the finalizing, because we do have a draft, finalizing the feature specification and all the and the way it works. And not quite. Okay, the R space. I also mentioned the R space, the illustration of the R space. Essentially, what the integration of the R space, the repository. Essentially, what we do with them is add a link to say a data set, whatever data set the researcher has deposited in there, and we in our space, and we retrieve as much information about the data set from our space as possible. Name of data set, if possible, whatever, you know, DOIs they have available. We hope to do this by IDCC 2024 and demonstrate it. And the other thing that we want to warn you about that we'll need either a change to existing API or a new API altogether. I'm going to go back to the list of the new features we plan to develop. I think this is achievable, this is doable, because we won't have that many updates to the existing infrastructure. If, you know, I'm going to invite you to a discussion. If you feel we ought to be doing more, or these are not the right priorities, we can do this during the discussion. In the past, we have mentioned that we also wanted things like features such as plan versioning. I've dropped it off the list. I'm talking like a dictator now. We've dropped it off the list for now, because we find it really difficult to develop a specification for this feature. If you remember, we discussed this, and I think it was January 2024. I'll send you the link again. I think it was January this year. And this feature meant different things to different people. When we asked users what they wanted in terms of plan versioning, they wanted my original plan, my plan after the feedback, and the plan I've finally submitted. That's what plan versions meant for them. Organizational administrators kind of thought of plan versioning a little bit like the template version. You click on history, and you look at the history, and you select a version of the template. Another way to look at it was phases. Those are also plan versions in some ways for templates that had phases. You know, Horizon 2020 had your initial plan, your mid of the project plan, your final end of project plan. So we had so many outlooks on this plan versioning that we lost track. I mean, they are doable, but we really need to be clear what we want and all settle on one specification. And I feel that it will take us longer to settle on the specification and really proceed to development. We're not going to proceed to development if nobody's clear what they want, because we can spend so much time wasting time. The other bit of plan versioning was people thought of features such as tracking changes, a bit like in Word. And sure, that's that is fabulous. It would be good to be able to do that. But that is another way of looking at versions. What do you do? And it also interacts with the feedback function. What do? Do you submit your plan? People give you feedback, track changes. Okay, save that. That will be one save version. Then the user gets back to you, has accepted all the changes. You know, how long does this to and fro continue? Because it can go for a while. And of course, it impacts on the feedback feature. I hope you can see why we kind of felt, let's focus on these first, on ROR, dynamic grant ID field, and the new plan creation wizard and integration with a repository, before we really go into such a major development. It does feel to me like a major development enterprise, such as plan versioning. It could be that we stick to something like plan versioning, like in template, but I don't see the end user being pleased with that. I don't think that's what they want or what they mean by plan versioning. Okay, how are we doing for time, everybody? I think I'm relatively early. Oh, I think I'm relatively early. What was that? Okay, 11:05. I think we can move into a discussion, if that's okay. So I'm happy to invite discussion on these development features. I see. So, any comments? Do you agree that these that we could go ahead with these? Were you hoping something else? Come on, don't be shy. If you can have a new version when we have to submit an updated version of our DMP halfway of a project and at the end, now we copy the project instead. This is plan versioning. Okay. I mean, we have other, obviously, we have these development priorities, but we also have ongoing maintenance and improvements on existing features. We're going to go through research outputs, and we are thinking of recruiting a DMPonline developer that will have experience in designing, more experience in designing interfaces, in user interface, in user experience, and to help us, when we develop a new feature, integrate it better within the tool to make it operate smoother. Because at the moment we've added some features and we feel that they don't quite operate in the same way. There's lack of consistency in both look and feel of how what buttons are called, for example. Okay, Mark.
Hi, just a question which you probably will remember that I asked earlier. But just wanting to know if you've had time to look into it. In previous user meetings, I said something about the fair implementation profiles, if you remember. Did you have a look at it? And the research output feature, has that been in any way aligned along the lines of the fair implementation profiles?
We keep talking to is Joy Davidson, who in our in Digital Creation Center is involved in the Fair Impact project, and she gives us updates on this. But at the moment, I haven't. For example, she's mentioned things like they are working on a list of trusted repositories and producing guidelines on trusted repositories. They haven't produced that yet. It seems to be moving relatively slowly. So yes, we are working with the Fair Impact project to align the research outputs feature with this. Is this what you had in mind, or?
Well, it's just wanting to know if you were looking into it, and if the developments in machine actionable features that are being introduced in the DMPonline tool are along the lines of where the fair implementation profiles in the direction that they're going, since it would be then easier to try to implement it more along those lines. If you're already doing that.
Yeah. So we're talking, our source of information are both Angus White and Joy Davidson, and we had a discussion with them on this yesterday about, for example, selecting repositories and all of that. So we're going to have a meeting with them to give us an overview of where they're at. With their guidance and with documentation they produced, what we can implement in DMPonline to align us more with their work. Okay, somebody else? Does that answer your question, Mark? If not, we can...
Yes, it does. And I saw in the chat that Zonenway is also considering fair implementation profiles to at least stimulating the use of them. So we're all kind of moving in the same direction, it seems.
Yeah. Joachim, for implementation profiles developed, I believe, by Go Fair Foundation and Leiden universities. That's the same as Fair Impact. I think so. I'll go and ask Joy. And get back to you. Okay. So that's a question to answer. What do you think about dynamic grant ID field? Are you happy with that? Do you feel that would be, you know, a good addition to the tool? Okay, I mean, do you need more time to think, or? Everybody's very quiet. It doesn't matter. I mean, I guess we can, I'm going to ask you, I'm going to email you and ask you after this who is keen to join any of these working group or a working group on any of these features. How about the new plan creation wizard? Are you happy with what we're proposing in terms of template selection? Do you think that would confuse users? Is it too much, too little? I see something. Mary Donaldson, thank you so much. Mary is happy with the proposals.
I might ask just for clarification.
Yeah.
The dynamic grant ID field is Is that what you meant with the question about would you like it split up in two fields, one for URL and one for the grant ID?
Yeah, I mean, for example.
Well, in my view, it's always best to separate things out. So from a database designs perspective, at least, that's how I view it. I would separate these things out if needed. Yeah.
I mean, we can come back to these, because you're quite right. This certainly will not be an editable field anymore, and these, so we hope to use the grant number, if anything, to retrieve information that can be automatically filled in. For example, project title, and yes, the URL should not be here.
Yeah, the only way something like that could be improved if funders, but I don't know what their view is on this, but if funders are considering changing or maybe editing their grant number format to align with stuff like DOIs, like identifiers that are minted somehow, then the idea would function similarly to a DOI, like a URL for an article or a data set.
The URL could function like a DOI, yeah. The problem is that, grant that funders have so many different ways to approach these things in so many different ways, but yeah.
Well, one more point for discussion with the funders.
No, go ahead, Mark.
No, that's what I meant. The grant number generation, if they're considering changing it into an ID that could be somehow function as a URL as well, something along the lines of a DOI.
Yeah, that would be good. Otherwise, there's no point in, just inserting a URL there thing. Joachim?
Okay, I'm in a mixed environment, so I can't speak too loudly. But I was just, I think that this is good that you're going in the direction of more machine actionable outputs. And I mean, and also integration with ROARs and everything. I would say the ultimate goal should be to align so that the output will be aligned with, for example, the DataCite metadata schema, so that you could actually validate a DMP. That's the direction that some repositories are going now. And I mean, it would greatly help in integrating different research outputs, of which DMPs are one.
Yeah.
So that's just a thought, but I realize that there's a distance to go here to get there.
Why do you feel there's a distance to go?
No, to integrate, to align fully with metadata schema, since I mean, given all the different templates that are out there right now, and so it will take some time, I believe.
Yeah.
I mean, it has taken this time for the repositories to get there, and for them it should be easier because they make up their own rules. But if you have lots of different templates, so maybe that's the way to narrow down on the number of templates and align them first, and then I don't know.
Right.
But as you know, we have gone in the other direction by developing our own templates, and I think that as I gather from this meeting, there are several other universities or that have gone in the same direction, precisely because they're not happy with the funder templates that are out there.
Okay, so do you feel somehow that the template model is not very good, doesn't work very well with aligning with dataset metadata schema?
No, I mean, it's definitely more difficult. I mean, one way of doing it is, I believe, with these research outputs, although we haven't actually seen anyone in our organization using that yet. So I think it will take some marketing efforts if we want them to use that. And in perhaps since we have our own machine actionable template, we don't have the same incentives to market it.
Okay,
To be honest. Okay.
Okay, sure.
I'm just
that's
thinking
very well.
aloud here, so I shouldn't take more a good time.
The thing is, you know, we want to align with the dataset metadata schema, and we'll have to look into how the template model lends itself to that. The research outputs feature has only recently been launched, and we deliberately launched it during a quieter period, so that you know you guys don't get lots of.
I don't expect it to,
but
just like that.
We are working on marketing, and we will produce materials for both organizational administrators and end users. You know, there could be 2 snippet videos like, here's how you do this, here's how you do that, including research outputs. And you know, we send them about, we circulate them to our community, and it is a matter of doing a bit of campaign to get people to use these research outputs.
Yeah, but before you start marketing broadly, I think you want to make sure that it works and it fits with your environment and your infrastructure locally too. So
it works. It has it works. There are some improvements to it. But yes, we will look into because we come back to research outputs in a moment, but yes, there are some organizations that are very keen on using it. There are some organizations that think this is a bit early for us, or our template will require some development before we can launch this. And there are some organizations that said, can I switch this off? Okay,
yeah,
so
I believe
we have to come back to that.
Okay. Okay.
Petra.
Thanks for now.
Thanks, Joachim. Petra.
Yeah, I just wanted to tell you that I'm really happy with the research outputs, because it means that we can skip some questions in our template. And even if you can't fill in all the information because you're just at the beginning of your project, I really like it that we can just select the most common repositories with the metadata, and that researchers don't have to type it in. So we're really happy with it. And if you don't want to use it, just skip the tab.
We have put at the top of the page. Thank you so much, Petra. We have put at the top of the page, you know, please consult your university. This may not necessarily be compulsory. Please consult your research office, etc., etc. But yeah, okay. Who else is in the chat? Petra and Glenys. Do we still have time for discussion? Where are we in the agenda?
I think it's time for a coffee break.
Okay, so I wrote a quick overview on how the research outputs feature operates. This is useful for mostly for the end user, but it can be useful to circulate around for data stewards at your institutions as well, just as a quick overview of how the feature is meant to work. We had an initial discussion at our user group meeting on 15 November 2022, and the power slides are linked to our working agenda for the user group. We'll circulate the link again. So what we're going to do today is Glenys is going to give us a brief demonstration of how the feature works.
Great. Okay. As Diana mentioned, this is just a quick demo, just a refresher for anyone who hasn't yet tried out this feature in DMPonline. So yes, hopefully it's pretty straightforward. So this is what you will see when you create a plan, and the research outputs is just an extra tab that has been added to your plan. So if you click on the tab, you will have just a small line of information which tells you that this information may be optional, and this is because some institutions feel it shouldn't be compulsory. Some people feel that it should be. So just to keep things neutral, we have added this line of information here, and also a quick link to the help page where you will have more information about how to add your research outputs. So this is a place where you also have information on how to create a plan, write your plan, share, and so on. So this is a place where you can also come, where you can find information about the research outputs feature. Now, this is our first version of information that we have placed over here. This will be updated, and we have already received some feedback on how we can make it better, and any information that's missing, or what can be edited or changed to make it more clear and helpful. So this is just the information that is present here. It is just the first version of it, and this will be improved and changed in the coming months. So this this place over here in the help page, this can also be customized by institutions which already have customized instances of DMPonline. This means that for your institution, if you have anything specific that you would like to say about the research outputs that you would like to convey to your researchers, this would be a place, and this information can be customized. We request that anyone who wants to customize this this paragraph or add anything else over here would reach out to the DMPonline help desk, and we can get it done with that. We can make the change right as soon as we do that. As soon as we hear from you, yes, we can make the change. So yeah, so the link to the help page is placed over here. There, please keep in mind that we have collected I would say a good amount of feedback, and we will start working on it right away. So the list of feedback that we have received and the improvements that were suggested, Diana will share with us shortly after this demonstration. But that is just to say that this, again, just a reminder that this is the basic version that we have released, and this will be subject to a lot more improvement. So this is your research outputs dashboard, in a way a mini dashboard within your plan. So you can add a research output by clicking on creating a research output. You can add a type. You can choose a type. You can type in, I'm just going to do test data set as the title. You can add a little description. You can add information by just clicking and checking the box if it is sensitive data. And once again, we do plan on adding a little bit more of an explanation here to make it more clear. You can add a repository and metadata standards by clicking on the button. And we have received feedback that this is not very intuitive. And what happens is you can either type a search term, or the way it works, and this is how it works in RE3 data, is that when you just click on apply filters and or maybe consider this as a search button for now, it gives you a list of all the repositories that are available. Now, this is very, very similar to how it works on their website as well, where you can either type a keyword or something that would help you with your search, or you can just click on the search button and you have a list of all the repositories that are available. So this is the list of repositories that we have that we are pulling in into DMPonline, that is shown as the list here. So you can select one and you can close it. You can add a metadata standard, an anticipated release date, the initial license or access level. Please note that there is an option at the end of the list here, which if you click, you will have a longer, bigger list. So do keep that in mind, because it's at first glance, I'm not sure it's very obvious, but again, that will be changed. So you can add the anticipated file size. Once again, this might not be known at the time of creating the research output, but that's okay, because you can always just save the research output. Oops, sorry. Oh, I forgot to add. What did I forget to add? I think I forgot to add something. Okay, if it is the file size. Uh-oh. I'm so sorry about this. I'm not sure what it is that I have missed. Is it the metadata standard? Shouldn't be. Okay. I'm very sorry about this. I'm not sure what is the problem, but not to waste any time, you can save it and immediately you can go back and edit it. So that is what I was trying to show. I'm not sure what was wrong with that particular research output, but again, I will sort that out privately without wasting anyone's time. But that is just a brief overview on how you can create a research output, and just directions to the help page would give you more information. Now I will hand it back to Diana, who will go through some a list of feedback and improvements that we plan to make to this feature.
Okay, so thanks to Glenys for the quick show. So the research outputs that we received, sorry, your feedback. We discussed this before, and I'll go through that feedback as well. But after we released it, a couple of users got back, and I thank them very much for this. The first input was that we should cascade some filters because sometimes the way the filters are currently arranged, if you combine two of them, chances are you will get no return. By cascading filters, I mean making them appear only if one option is selected. So, for example, it was suggested that perhaps once you select something like discipline-specific repository, only then you should be given the option to select a discipline, not before. Because if you apply all of the filters, you might get no return whatsoever. Joachim? You have a raised hand. Do you want to talk now, or do you want to?
Yes, I had some questions about these. You have a repository, and you have metadata standards, and you have licenses. Are these aligned? I mean, not all repositories can actually provide all metadata standards or all licenses. So if you put in that you're going to use a certain repository for your data, I mean, the metadata standards available will be dependent on that repository. And to a certain extent, the same is true for licenses.
Yes.
So, otherwise, there will be, I mean, this will put some extra workload on us as administrators to check that.
Glenys, you wanted to say something?
Yes, if I may, I think this is related to something, Diana, that we discussed with Angus yesterday about the list of repositories, because I think what it comes down to is the list or the options are too many, and we need to find a way to filter it to make sure that, as Joachim said, that the metadata standards, if it's connected to specific repositories, I think what he's trying to say is that only those should be the options, and not just the list of options should be, I think, more restricted. Is that, have I understood that correctly?
Well, yeah, to a certain extent. That's why in our template we have a limited number of repositories, and we don't ask for the metadata standards, because we figure we can infer what metadata standards are available from the repository.
Yeah, if I could come in. So there is an issue. When this feature was developed, everybody felt that they could cover their ground by asking for all of these three things, because not all repositories are, not all repositories in that database are actually as well developed or contain all of the information that is needed, including metadata standards. Now, this is why we're constantly asking, on the lookout for better data sources. I mean, each of these fields is linked to a particular data source. That data source may not be the best, was the best there was when the feature was developed, but there may be a better one. Joy told me that Fair Impact are working on a list of trusted repositories. Where they will put that list? Will they feed it back into the database that we're currently using, or will they create an entirely new database? That's something that we need to keep an eye on, because if this list of trusted repositories really contains a list of repositories that follow your model, Joachim, your model. You know what I mean? The model where they also provide information on metadata standards. Then if we're doing really well, we don't need to ask the end user for metadata standards. We can get that out of the repository. But can we trust that all the repositories in there actually ask for the metadata standards? I'm aware, we're aware of these. We're aware that there is a bit of duplication there, and we should avoid it. We at the moment we're covering our ground, but that doesn't mean that the research outputs feature has to stay the way it is. If we find that data source of trusted repositories, a trusted data source database of trusted repositories that also routinely provide information on metadata standards, then we can take the metadata standards field out. Yeah,
but I mean, my point is that also that most researchers or users don't know much about metadata standards.
That's right.
So they don't know what to choose, and even if the repository does not explicitly ask them for what metadata standard do you want to use, they provide some of the bigger, at least, or the gray repositories. They provide export formats for different metadata standards. So I mean, and also as far as I can remember, if one of the points with the research outputs is to conform to the RDA DMP common standard schema, there is no, it's not in any way compulsory to provide a metadata standard in that schema. So you can validate against that schema without answering questions about metadata standards. So
yeah, so we could make it. So we could make it a non-compulsory
at
field.
least, yeah.
Non-compulsory, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you are on our little mini group of people who have provided routinely input on this, and we'll come back. Now that we released it and we want to improve it and spend time on improving this feature throughout the year, we'll come back to this.
Yeah. Great.
Okay.
Thanks.
So thanks, Joachim. Yeah, I'll be back. I'm on to you. Okay. So Cascade. Oh, Petra.
Yeah, I wanted just to point out that if you need any more suggestions or help, I can also help, because I really like it. And on what Joachim said, sure, researchers usually don't even know what metadata scheme they need to use, but also not the repository. But for me as a supporter, it really helps that we can just select it and that we then immediately know that we have the right metadata standard schema. So for me, it's a great help, and it saves me a lot of time.
Excellent. Okay, I'll come back to this so that we don't run out of time. I just want to go through all of the input that you've given us, and hopefully we'll have plenty of time. I'll rush through this time, I promise you. Okay, so the cascade of filters, I hope that made sense. It's don't apply too many filters at once or you get no return. Some of the filters could appear once others have been selected. And I gave an example. Improve search function for fields such as repository. I think we kind of thought that people have an idea of repository that they would use. Say, I work for beta linguistics, so I started, but it turns out that I had no idea when I started searching for a repository in linguistics for data where, sound data, for example, I had no idea where I would put it. And I searched, it was a bit, it was difficult to find a suitable repository. I found out, sure, once I fiddled with the various searches, but the search function should work perhaps like, should have some kind of autofill in it. At the moment you start typing something in the organization field and it starts playing with you, returns, it builds a list based on what you're entering, whereas the repository metadata fields don't do this at the moment. Ideally they should, because people start by not having any idea what should they, of what filters are available. Ideally, we should also display what options they're returning, this autofill, as drop-down lists. Again, I mean, these are matters of usability rather than the function itself. This is more down to usability. Provide tooltips and on-screen explanations for each of the fields. I think we have things about ethics, sensitive data. We should provide more explanations. This is valid throughout the tool, which is why I said that we are hiring a developer with more UX experience, because we've added a variety of little functions and new facilities to the tool, but we haven't kept up with properly integrating it and being constant across the screens. And users who are used to, for example, the search functions working one way in one screen, on the organization screen and on other screens, and come across the research outputs feature and it works somewhat differently, they'll be a bit confused why they don't work. We have things like a close, an explicit close button, but we also have another close button across. So we really need to be careful that we use consistently the same terminology across screens. Make each research output a hyperlink. I think we have this for plans. Yes, you have actions against plans to do things with them, same for templates, but they're also hyperlinks. And at the moment, if you look at the list of research outputs, there are no hyperlinks. You really have to click on action, edit, before you can actually edit it. And you'd be good, I mean, that's one also advantageous feature of having this list of research outputs, is the fact that it's a list and you can quickly go through it. The research domain, these are not the best classifications. We're aware that when you select a research domain, the arts and the humanities are squashed in 2 or 3 choices. I wouldn't even know where to look for linguistics, for example. I, played around for a bit. In the end, I chose computer science. So the science and engineering, the world's your oyster. You have lots of choices, right? And then, yes, selecting a research domain also has an impact on selecting a repository. We need to be more fine-tuned for arts and humanities. At the moment, we're not. They're lumped together. This one came again. I'm going to have to ask the user who submitted this. Perhaps add the status for research outputs, planned, in progress, completed. I don't know. We'll look into it, but I'm not sure what the use of this will be. I haven't had a chance to get into lengthy discussions, but again, we see this demand, this pattern for asking for versions, for same version as for the plan. Here's my initial plan, here's my in-progress plan, here's my completed plan. Something along those lines. We see this pattern coming back time and time again. The next bit, these are more advanced features that we've been asked for. We've been asked to implement a feature to enable administrators to set preferred repositories and set preferred license. Yeah, we'll look into this, but yes, some organizations use their own repositories, provide or even impose to end users what repositories they should deposit data in. Okay, I can kind of understand that. Display help on the right side of the page, same way as guidance, guidance throughout the plan. Yeah, at the moment we've put the help. The easiest thing we've done is to put the help on the help page, the static help page, I mean. But in the long run, I can see no reason why we shouldn't enable universities to add more guidance on creating research outputs. That shouldn't be too difficult to implement, but it's not going to happen this year. Can some fields be used individually? For example, metadata standards, to be inserted in the template. Some of you have already done this, but I think, I don't know, I'll invite Glenys to comment on this. And can the feature be switched on or off? I wouldn't be happy with this. I would want all users to know that this feature is available to them. I'll invite discussion on this one if you want. Let me see, have I finished? Mark, I'm aware you've got, okay. I've reached the end of your input. Mark, you've been with your hand raised for a while. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's more of a question about the research output on the back end, I think. I'm not really sure if it's the back end. What I did was I did a small test and I created some data sets with additional information based on the research output feature. Mm-hmm. And what I saw was in the JSON file, there was a security and privacy section where the description was populated with answers to questions and questions. And I'm not sure I selected those. Is that auto-populated from the templates that you select?
I think I might need a bit more context and information about this. Do you think it's possible if I can email you and you can send me more information about this, Mark?
Yeah, sure. I can send you just an example and
yes,
highlight.
Yeah. I would really like that. Yes, please.
Yeah, just send me an email and I'll get back to you with the example.
Yes, definitely. Thank you so much.
Okay. Can I see anything? Where is important? Okay, I think I've gone. I don't think these are new. These are new comments. So please let me know what else you would like to the research outputs feature to do, and whether, if you've used it, if you have additional feedback to it. I mean, in general, it doesn't necessarily have to be feedback. Anything you want to say, please go ahead.
Well,
You're welcome,
just a small message from my end then. I'll be discussing the new research output with a group of people from my university, and to ask feedback on how we feel generally on DMPonline and the directions it's going. So whatever input I get, I'll definitely send you some of the discussions during the meeting.
Thank you.
It's part of an annual kind of review that I want to do, to discuss the tool and the developments, and yeah, overall how we feel about it. So it's what I plan to do in September.
Yes, we would appreciate that input very much. Many institutions do this, you know, once a year or so, and give us input and, you know, place new requests for new features. So yeah, that we really appreciate if you would let us know. Soile.
Hi everyone. I just showed this feature yesterday to my colleagues here, and I just tell some general feedback. They were very pleased that this feature is now on, and some of the feedback was that it's not necessarily easy to find when you are downloading your DMP and it goes to the end. That might be a little bit confusing, because usually we ask these kind of general descriptions on the first question on our DMP template. And we had same kind of feedback that this searching of repositories is not so easy necessarily for some users. So we have to be very careful with that when we are using and guiding our users.
Yeah, we're aware of this. We need to improve that function, full stop. So thanks, Soile. So you think the download doesn't work? You don't want it right at the end?
Yes, that was the feedback we received, because we asked same kind of things in the first question in our template, where you have this general description of your data. So, but if you download the Word version, then you can move the table to the first section of the DMP, but that is something we might consider.
Okay, we have to look into that. Possibly a quick meeting would be good, so that we can do a quick Zoom meeting and show me what you mean. You mean you want it would suit you better in your template if the list of outputs came at the beginning of the plan or at the end?
Yes.
Okay. So the download, made a note of that. Thank you so much. Anything else? If not, I mean, oh, Miriam.
Yeah, sorry.
No, go ahead.
There. Yeah, I was wondering whether other users would be interested in also having the persistent identifier from the research outputs also in this research outputs tab, because it's all kind of anticipated, initial, intended, and eventually, hopefully, this would result in a persistent identifier for the particular research output. And as it is now, we have that in the plan, in the right plan section. So like also the comments from in the chats. So to avoid duplication and to have all this this information centrally available, is it useful also for other users? Is maybe open question. I imagine we also discussed this in our team, and it's a bit well anticipated initial in the planning phase, but if it results in a persistent identifier, that would also be valuable information for the research output, I guess.
Okay, I see there's another hand raised.
Yeah, it's me. I agree with Miriam, because this is also information that we have to send to our funders at the end of the project. So if we can add the persistent identifier to the research output tab, it would be wonderful. Yeah, that would make it also complete, and maybe also avoid the comment about planned in progress completed. Once you have a PID or a URL or another identifier, then the research output is completed and published. Yeah, and for the Dutch funders, this is information that we have to give them at the end of the project. So for us, it's really terrific that this is in the plan. It saves us time.
Okay, excellent. So we have to look at, in addition to these comments, we have to look at adding PIDs to the outputs, look at the download function, plus the content, the comments are on screen. And generally, I think the interface generally needs improvement. And by interface, I mean user experience and the way they search, and the search functionality works. And don't know, maybe it's me, but I'm a bit so focused on sourcing that first. But yeah, I agree with all of these comments. And as I said, making more use of PIDs and TOIs is a priority for us. Okay. What else is there in the chat? Oh, right. Sorry, this is a direct message to me. Sorry, I'll hide that. Okay, so unless anybody else has anything else to say, I think we're more or less on time. It's only 6 minutes late, and I feel we've covered quite a lot, and your participation has been great. Thank you so much for the input. As ever, please feel free to send us feedback, dmponline@dcc.ac.uk. If you don't remember the email, send them to me, because I'll always forward them to the help desk as well. Just go ahead and fire away. We'll arrange, so there are meetings with, I think we'll consult Miriam, Petra, Mark, about the little problem that he had. We'll meet with Glenys, and we'll work further on developing this feature. We'll have to develop it as best as we can throughout this year. Miriam, you raised your hand again, or is this an older raise?
My mic was off. I have a question completely off topic with regard to the research outputs, but we have trouble within our institute in the institutional login. I may have missed something, because I know there's been lots of activity in DMPonline, but we cannot log in via the institutional login. Is this a specific problem for us? Because I have the email also drafted, but if there's a problem...
We can look into this, because there were a couple of other universities that had this issue, and it's fixed now. I haven't heard from them other than that it works, and it could be to do with the workflow. We can take this offline, watch what you're doing, and go through it. But as far as we know, the SSO works.
Okay.
We're aware that sometimes users, you probably know the tool inside out, you wouldn't do this, but we're aware that sometimes users try to click on the SSO, try to log in without creating an account, a DMPonline account first. That happens.
No, I could even could not use my own admin login this morning, so I was referred to the
to the basic screen of sign in or create account. So I
Right.
could
So
not,
have you? All right. We can take this offline and,
Yeah.
and talk to you because the SSO works. But we'll talk to you in a moment. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I can also send a mail. So thank you for the meeting.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. And we'll be in touch with the topic for the next meeting in September. Thank you so much.